Talking again with Jacob Needleman. His new book is What is God? And there's a lot of mysticism in this book. There's the law of seven,
Yes.
the law of three, the 6-point star that you mentioned, the octave law. But Gurdjieff, George Gurdjieff was for many years, he was an important figure to the literary world. I discovered him, in fact, when I started doing work on the writer Jean Toomer, and Katherine Porter was a student of his, Hart Crane, the poet. But he was regarded by many as a charlatan.
Yes, he was. He
was a charlatan, wasn't
he was not a charlatan.
In part, at least, wasn't he?
No. He was. His manifestations did tempt people to call him very weird things, sometimes he almost intentionally provoked that sort of reaction. But he was an original and a really great teacher.
Well, it takes us to Ouspensky, really.
Yes.
And what that is all about, what I've always understood it to be about, is cosmic consciousness.
You could call it that. That's one name that Bucke, gave it. And
Walt Whitman, too.
Yeah, Walt Whitman, very much so, yes. So it is a higher standard. And Emerson, too, in his way, as the Oversoul is in that idea as well.
There's the idea, though, that you can bring some kind of birth above the body, right? That you can fuse the spirit with the mind and the body.
Yes. This whole thing, it's something really interesting and remarkable can take place inside the human body. And the human body can be inhabited by something that enlivens it, that gives it a new kind of life.
That's why the Gurdjieffians were doing a lot of dances and things of that sort, physical movements.
That was and is part of their spiritual discipline, which is a work with what Gurdjieff created with the help of one or two of his great pupils, what is called the movements or sacred dances, which was a way of studying and then developing this deep human power of total attention to the body, which is really at the heart of a lot of traditions. And they had this particular method of working with music and human body movement.
But the practice is largely, like a lot of Buddhist practice, for the spiritual elevation, for bringing us to a higher level.
Very much so. And through an awareness, very often, and partly, but very often, through awareness of how low we are, as it were, something higher enters in. It's like when the Buddhists say, in the mysterious way, Nirvana is the awareness of samsara. That means liberation is the awareness of slavery. So it's the power of awareness that is the liberating force.
Isn't Nirvana also really an extinction of consciousness?
An extinction of egoism.
Yeah.
Not consciousness.
Where do they separate?
There are different things. Egoism is a collection of impulses and thoughts and ideas and perhaps illusions which temporarily coalesce into a false sense of permanent I. But when that is one of the crusts that covers over this pure, free energy of consciousness, which the Buddhists call Satori or Nirvana or Buddha nature.
Talking again with Jacob Needleman. His book is What is God? You write of Socrates, who I know is a favorite of yours and of mine as well, and you kind of suggest that maybe all of his notions that he knows nothing were maybe just ways of perhaps, offering up what really wasn't who he was.
Well, it was you could say a method in a way, an approach to opening up a teaching dialogue with other people. And on one hand, it was a mask, a method, a presentation of something that, in a way you could say a trap, he said. He likened himself to like a stingray, a fish that stings. He would bring people in, saying, I know nothing. And in a deep sense, though, I think he was honest about that. When he said, I don't know anything, I think he was saying, I don't deeply understand anything. It doesn't, because, and that awareness that you don't deeply understand the essential things of life is one of the great keys that unlock wisdom. That wisdom comes pouring in when you really see you don't understand. That was the great paradox of Socrates.
I certainly have always accepted that lack of our understanding. So can we understand God then?
Well,
in our ignorance.
I think it's possible in certain states, for certain moments, for certain people, I must say. I think there are many degrees. It's not an all or nothing thing. One can certainly get hints and clues of what a higher mind or higher life really is, a higher energy really is, you can get clues. But the pure, complete understanding, I don't know. I wouldn't presume to say that one thing or another. But when you read the really great spiritual teachers like Gurdjieff or Meister Eckhart or people like that, they have had visions given to them. In fact, one of the wonderful phrases about Meister Eckhart, one of the titles of one of his sermons, I think, is Meister Eckhart, from whom God hid nothing, which is what a wonderful phrase to say.
I always remember the phrase of mysterium tremendum with Meister Eckhart, that sense of the great fear of this potent and omnipotent and extraordinary presence.
And his language is so original, so unique. I've been able to read some of it in German, but in English too, you see. He was a completely unique expression of a very deep spirituality. The same with Gurdjieff. His language is created, so it doesn't press all the familiar buttons.
They used to always call him a turgid writer, though,
Yeah, sure.
Back in his Meeting's a Remarkable Man and all of those things that he put out. I